Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Stingy, the first and you're not the only anymore. Man Bun's here too. Xcomer sent me a super chat yesterday in an attempt to derail me, and it kind of sort of did at the time, but definitely derailed me last night. I have done some extensive research on the room temperature superconductor known as LK99. So we're going to go into it's not that hard, to be honest. What's up, Jason? So this is my take on LK99 after I've done a ton of research. If you're unfamiliar what LK99 is, it is a group of Korean scientists that have been searching for a room temperature semiconductor. So if you don't know what semiconductors are, hey Linda, hey Digger, I just kind of randomly made it, so I'm not shocked there's no notification. I have a bunch of stuff I want to get to, and this was first on the. This is a true statement. So anyways, if you're not familiar with what a superconductor is, it's basically a magnet. They're made for different sorts of electronic devices, different types of, like one of their most notable uses is in attempted cold fusion. They use it in the Large Hadron Collider. They use it for several other implements. So, a room temperature superconductor would be life-changing. It would be probably, if not our, if it's not the most impactful technological advancement of this century, I don't know what would go in front of it. They use it for a lot. You think it's real? Okay. I'll get to my thoughts when we get to the end here. So this is I'm not going to tell you to the end. You'll have to watch through to the end. This is only going to be like 15-20 minutes. And then hell, I might be back. I don't know, because I want to do something on the wildfires, but algorithm, it's better to cut them up than do them all at once. If you're not following LK99, you're missing out on the most fun thing happening on the internet right now. Feels like the old internet. And this was a Reddit post that's made its way around Twitter. It's been actually picked up by several scientific journals and taken as gospel at this point. Since 1999, a tiny group of Korean scientists. Are they a tiny group or tiny and a group? That's not clear. Working in obscurity and in their off time, pursued the dying wishes of their materials professor, who had his own theory about room temperature and pressure superconductors. A century-defining material, the holy grail of material science, and an instant Nobel Prize. It will be instant Nobel Prize. They'll be some of the most impactful. I mean, if it happens, it would be incredible. I'm assuming South, but they don't speculate. Yeah. I think anytime they say Korea, they generally mean the South because they think that it's all theirs. But I know. Well, I got a bunch of stuff I want to get to, and this was on top of the list because I deep dived it. A week ago, one of them went rogue and published a paper describing how to produce their substance LK99, which may or may not be this holy grail material. It requires no exotic materials or equipment to reproduce, but the paper omits a lot of detail about the specifics of the synthesis of this material. The company They accompany, it with pictures and a video. There are mistakes in the paper, but the authors say they are trivial. It will be fixed, and all of them stand by their claims, even if they feud with each other. Hey, dog mama. This kicks off a worldwide race to debunk or reproduce US, Chinese, Japanese, Indian labs all drop what they're doing and give LK99 a shot. One guy at a startup in California tries out his own as well. That thing's in my way, but and 10,000 people tune in to watch Twitch stream of a webcam pointed at a kiln. The process takes a few days. Oh, it's right there. A Russian anime cat girl joins the fracas, ruthlessly making fun of both the original Korean scientists for their bizarre methodology and the Western Chinese labs for simply following the steps without understanding what they do. She applies the Soviet technique of ignoring the steps outlined and instead trying to figure out what they actually do, and comes up with their own procedure using shit just laying around her apartment. Huh. Dog mama, you're funny. She produces a small grain of floaty rock and takes a picture, but refuses to take a video, and mercilessly ridicules everybody who keeps asking her for more proofs because it was so easy to do. They should be just doing that for themselves if they weren't mediocre Westoids. She's catty and great. I haven't actually seen her footage or anything. I skipped some of the details, but it's been a fun ride. Maybe the history books will record this moment when a bitchy internet cat girl became the first person to reproduce the material that saved humanity and sent them to the stars. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, this finally came up. This took forever to load. And for anybody who wants to, hang on, apologize, this wasn't up before I started the show. For anyone who has a problem with me going completely live, this is Xcomer's fault. It would. Yeah. This weekend, if you have clear skies, even if you don't, you should try. Perseid meteor shower is at its peak. I was going to make a comment about that tonight's show, but I'll do it today too. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay. That doesn't help anybody. So they're talking about diamagnetism, and they're talking about things like this, where you have magnetic lock. Sorry, I'm just reading through some of the. So minus 10 to the 5. So as we can see, this is basically the conductors and notable. You can see, so we know that water conducts electricity fairly well. Copper is what we use for the most part. And then we get into other. They don't have gold on here. So anyways, so here's an article in Nature And this tells you a little bit where I stand. There's several papers out there. I can link a couple. I don't believe that they have found a room temperature superconductor because of the data out of their original experiment, coupled with the fact that reproduction has been less than good. So this is what they're talking about. So if you, I didn't even explain that. So superconductors have to be frozen. They have to be very cold to work effectively, and then you can get this lock where you get levitation, and you can put a pretty good deal of weight on this little block, and it will still levitate because it's in magnetic lock. You also don't have the magnetic field lines that run through superconductors. So here's where we get into it. A South Korean team claimed to have discovered a superconductor that works on a room temperature and ambient pressure has become a viral sensation and prompted a slew of replication efforts by scientists and amateurs alike, but initial efforts to experimentally and theoretically reproduce the buzzworthy result have come up short, and researchers remain deeply skeptical. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. The team led by Suk-bae Lee and Ji-hoon Kim at the startup firm Quantum Energy Research Center in Seoul, so the South one, reported in preprints published on Eric's server 25 July that a compound of copper, lead, phosphorus, and oxygen, dubbed LK99, is a superconductor at ambient pressure and temperatures up to at least 127 degrees Celsius, 400 Kelvin. So and this is where I think Weston. I'm not so sure. So I saw the original paper. Another interesting thing is this server is now down. Like, you can no longer gain access to this paper. So that's always concerning too. The replication efforts, those papers are all inaccessible, and even the original paper with how to make this is inaccessible at this point. Could be internet censorship, but this was a yes. Yep, I think that that was last night. The team says samples show two key hallmarks of superconductivity: zero electrical resistance and the Meissner effect, in which materials expel magnetic fields, leading samples to levitate above the magnet. Previous efforts have achieved superconductivity only in materials at incredibly low temperatures or extremely high pressures. No material has ever been confirmed to be a superconductor under ambient conditions. LK99's purported superconductivity drew immediate scrutiny from scientists. My first impression was no, says Ina Vishik, a condensed matter experimentalist at the University of California, Davis. I know, Stingy. I don't hold it against you, buddy. These unidentified superconducting objects, as they're sometimes called, reliably show up on the whatever. Yep. There's a new one every year or so. Advances in superconductivity are often touted for their potential impact on technologies such as computer chips and maglev trains. But Vishik points out that such excitement might be misplaced. Historically, progress in superconductivity has had tremendous benefits for science, but little in the way of everyday applications. there's no guarantee that a room temperature superconductor would be of practical use. I disagree with that last part, but the first attempts to replicate LK99 results have not improved the material's prospects. None of the studies provided direct evidence for any superconductivity, and that's what it's talking about. The immediate returns, there's nothing there. And this is in Nature. There's also, I read some from somebody I respect, Sabine Hofstadter. I can't pronounce her last name. Yeah, there we go. Whatever. So some of the people that I know and respect in the industry have already said no, probably not. So by teams at the National Physical Laboratory of India in New Delhi and Bihang University in Beijing. This one I didn't even read because I generally don't trust any scientific research that comes out of China just by, yeah, this is all your fault. I just out of, unless I can get something corroborated, I don't usually trust anything single sourced out of China. So I usually don't even read it. Reported synthesizing LK99, but did not observe signs of superconductivity. A third experiment by researchers at Southeast University in Nanjing, China, found no Meissner effect, but measured near zero resistance in LK99 at negative 163 Celsius or 110 Kelvin, which is obviously far below room temperature, but high for superconductors. And I think that's going to be our. I saw that it might work at 100 Kelvin, which is an advancement, and it's nice, but it doesn't support their claims of room temperature superconductor, unless your room is on Uranus. Theorists have also entered the fray. Several studies use computational technique called density function theory, DFT, to calculate LK99's electronic structure. The DFT calculations suggest interesting electronic features that in other materials have been associated with behaviors such as ferromagnetism and superconductivity, but none of the studies found evidence that LK99 could be a superconductor at ambient conditions. So basically what all that nerd language means is that it has to be kept less cold, but we're still talking about a cryo magnet, cryo superconductor. Sorry. Replicators first attempted to synthesize LK99 following the process described by the Korean team, which involved mixing powdered components in 2 stages of heating, with 925 Celsius reached during the second stage. The high temperatures and use of lead have prompted concerns about amateur replication attempts, which researchers say are dangerous. I'm not going to attempt to do it because burning lead doesn't end well. Damn, it's almost like I just said that. I've heard it can be made at home. My wife won't let me buy a kiln because she's afraid I'll burn down the house. Secondly, burning lead it doesn't seem attractive to me, so I will not be taking part in this internet meme fest eventually. But I appreciate the super chat, buddy. To confirm the resulting material structure and identities, replicators use an X-ray diffraction, an atomic imaging technique. The Bihang team concluded that its sample structure was highly consistent with that of LK99. Yeah, she doesn't let me play with fire very often. A member of the National Physics Laboratory of India team, physicist Virpal Singh Awana, acknowledged small differences between their sample and that of the Korean team. Our LK99 is very similar to that as reported to superconducting LK99, he says. But Robert Palgrave, a chemist at University College London, says both the X-ray diffraction patterns obtained by these replication attempts are significantly different from the Korean team's patterns and from each other. Members of the Hank team did not respond to Nature's request for comment. I would say they're trying to get some publicity for their firm. Like I said, they I think they had the best interest at heart, and I think that this material does indeed have an application. If it lowers that temperature that it has to be frozen at, but it's not what they're saying. You can fusion's easy to make. Not positively producing fusion, but you can make fusion in your basement. Done it. Vacuum chamber. What's up, Jacob? Yeah, I know about the Carly Russell because of the plane chick. Little Tay, I have no idea what the hell all that's about, but you know. Southeast University team obtained X-ray diffraction data that more consistent with the Korean team sample, according to Palgrave. But several researchers have questioned the claim of achieving zero resistance at 163C. Evan Zales-Geller, a condensed matter physicist at MIT, Cambridge, says that the resistance measured wasn't sensitive enough to distinguish between a superconductor and a low resistance metal, such as copper, which is in the formula. Huh. Uncertainty about the structure of LK99 limits the conclusions that researchers can draw from theoretical calculations which assume a given structure. On 31 July, a theoretical analyst posted on Twitter prompted excitement among online enthusiasts. Sinead Griffin, who studies quantum materials at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory in Berkeley, California, shared her paper, accompanied by a GIF of a former U.S. President Barack Obama performing a mic drop. The optimism was prompted by Griffin to use DFT to find that LK99 has flat bands, indicating that electrons in a material are strongly correlated with each other. Flat band systems tend to show interesting physics, Bishik says. So when materials predicted to have a flat band, people get kind of excited. And it certainly could have a flat band, but that doesn't and right there, Griffin later rebuffed optimism, tweeting, "My paper did not prove nor give evidence of superconductivity." Other theoretical analyses are also suggested the presence of flat bands, but all of them rely on the same assumption about the structure, says Leslie Shoup, a solid-state chemist at Princeton University in New Jersey. In a nutshell, I don't believe any of the DFT before I know the correct crystalline structure. So that's all just, even if future experiments confirm flat bands, this feature does not mean the material will display room temperature superconductivity, Shoup says. The association between flat bands and superconductivity comes from other materials, such as twisted layers of graphene. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Let me know if you need to talk, Digger. I'm here. slightly offset sheets of atomically thin carbon, which displayed superconductivity at negative 271 degrees C, 1.7 K, and it featured flat bands. Hey, Nicole Maxwell. But this does not provide evidence for superconductivity at the researchers' claimed temperatures in the lead-based LK99. So you don't have an excited. So here, let's just say it is fake, Bobby. That's what I'm saying. Absolutely, we're all praying for you. So please let us know. Hey, Para. Goddamn, Bobby. Eating tacos. What kind of tacos? Damn it, Bobby. Floating process has to be real. So even if you, so let's say we're going to start using this one, we take into account its materials and we've really stepped away from using lead in anything because of its toxicity. The copper is not a problem. Phosphorus isn't an issue. Oxygen's everywhere. So other than the lead, there's really nothing that's exotic or even remotely harmful. Depending on how much lead and what kind of arrangement. But then when you're heating that to nearly 1,000 C, lead is dangerous, and that makes a huge problem later if we were to manufacture it. So, so the limited success of the replication attempts has not quelled speculation online. Unverified videos of samples supposedly levitating because of superconductivity have circulated as viral evidence, despite the fact that many materials and objects such as graphite, frogs, and pliers can exhibit similar magnetic behavior. Yeah, I mean, you can. I would have to look more in depth at the structure, but it's not going to be lead for the elemental lead. It's going to be lead for the lattice structure that it creates. So apparently, so I don't know, and I'm not a physicist, so I just understand most of it. So experimental physics, actually. So previous room temperature superconductivity claims, including one made in March by the controversial physicist Ranga Dias, have made headlines, but the attention associated with LK99 has surpassed that for many of its predecessors. Frustrated by the atmosphere of hype, some scientists have taken to mimicking the levitation videos with everyday materials used to suspend by string and other props. I opened this Twitter up one day and noticed a bunch of sketchy videos with little floating pebbles, says Eric Aspling, a physicist at Binghamton University, New York. In response, he uploaded a video featuring a sample of LK99 shaped as a fork, suspended by tape. I thought, how can anyone be convinced by this? Oh, yeah, of course. Yep. So here's a paper from Cornell. Well, a part of the paper. So the paper is it's pre-submitted, so we get a lot of these little chunks, but LK99 sample shows above 120. And the second being on-site repulsive column interaction enhanced by the structural deformation in one-dimensional chain PB201-2 PB2. So I wish Brian was around. Brian, are you here? Because he's at least a chemist. It's raining pretty bad here too. For the first time in a while. I was gonna go play in the truck because there's a bunch of puddles, but so ambient pressure was a modified lead epitite. Superconductivity of the LK99. Critical temperature of your yeah, this makes a lot of claims that well, I wasn't talking about that chemist. Black Brian, not White Brian. Black Brian's a chemist. Brian. Let me see if he's around. Hang on. Let me see if you're around, little buddy. Where the hell is he at? Oh, there he is. Hey, bud. You around? There you go. We'll see if he's around. But so yes, he is. Fantastic. All right. I should be able to get him to come up here. And just like that. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up?
So we're talking about LK99.
Yes, I saw something about this. Actually, quite a bit.
Yeah, there's been quite a bit about it. So I was asking you about the column interaction enhanced by the structural deformation in the one-dimensional chain PB201 to PB2 along the C-axis. Explain it to me.
Oh, you're asking me what it is. Hi, Dog Mama.
Yeah.
Okay, so what they're essentially talking about here is essentially the structure of the crystal that is formed. So, I mean, crystalline structure, I mean, like ice is a crystal, and it's kind of just a whole bunch of stacked up water molecules. And they're very tightly bound together because they aren't able to what's the word I'm looking for? Overcome the intermolecular forces. So like each molecule interacts with the one next to it and vice versa. And there's not enough power to essentially break the chain of them together. That's why when you heat it up, they start to break apart, thus melting. This one right here, it essentially is a mostly lead with a little bit of like copper and phosphate bullshit mixed into it. With
right, bonded by oxygen. So wouldn't it be energetic and subject to things like overheating or breaking down?
It would kind of depend. So because there's oxygen in there, is it able to possibly like react with stuff? Maybe it's kind of unlikely. Just because it is inside of the structure. There's no way to like get around it, type of thing.
Right. Okay.
But So with all the lead in there though, I would expect not too much of a reactive in terms of burning like type of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay. Yeah. I just didn't know what oxidized lead looks like. So
It's kind of like rust.
is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of rustular-ish. I think I saw the picture of it. It kind of looks like one of those like neodymium magnets or whatever, but just like darker.
Yeah. It certainly does. So here's shit, that's not it. I had a picture of it someplace. I probably already got out of it. Oh. So yeah.
But yeah,
It
they have a that magnet right there. You
much
can
appreciated.
buy those like off Amazon. They are so powerful. Like
Yeah.
you have to work to get those apart.
Yeah. And don't get your fingers in between them and hold them apart because then they will break your finger and it hurt
Good
really
goodbye
bad.
finger.
Yep. Shrinkage is caused by copper 2. Substitution of Pb2. So lead 2 ions in an insulating network. Phosphate and it generates the stress. Currently
So,
transfers
so what I
lead
think they did was essentially take a whole bunch of lead and copper and some phosphorus and just melt it at like 1,000 degrees Celsius for a couple of days.
Well, yeah, and hang on, I wanted to get to a couple. I appreciate that. Brian being smart. He is very smart. He is a very smart man. I mean, not as smart as Meaty, but pretty smart. So do you buy this room temperature semiconductor?
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
Because
We're
I
on the
mean,
same.
we have had room temperature semiconductors in the past, but they're very fragile
Mm-hmm.
and they usually exhibit some weird properties, but it's not anything, I guess, um, extreme compared to like anything that's liquid helium cooled. Liquid helium cooled. Like it's not going to ever be, even if it does have some level of I can't remember what the force is called. Crap. Um, Either way, if even if it does like exhibit properties of being a semiconductor, it
Mm-hmm.
is not enough to actually do anything more than what already exists.
You don't think so? I think that
No.
I think that you I think that you could have some historic advancements without having to use liquid cooled. I know specifically in my industry it probably would be pretty I could see it being very beneficial. Not that cooling it with liquid helium isn't like that isn't the worst or most difficult thing, but it just takes a level of complexity out and makes it able.
Yeah,
No.
but I think we have had ones that were existent before, and that's part of the problem is like they don't exhibit quite the same abilities
Yeah,
because I mean you're heating it up and then it will eventually bust down obviously because when you run
right.
electricity through it it will heat up, but
Yeah.
like I don't actually know how brittle this stuff is. Judging by it being lead, I would assume that it's not horribly brittle,
Well,
which would be a benefit.
the other thing is it's going to be heavy. Lead's pretty heavy.
Oh, it is going to be very well. Okay, so yeah, just judging by what I see here, is it's going to be pretty. Are they rustular though? A little bit rustular.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know where I pulled that word from, but
oh, it was up a little bit further. Hey, what's up, Josh? Um, Plus you're going to get extra oxidation with the copper. I don't like the manufacturing process. I don't think the holdup is that great. And it is cool to see something that isn't a rare earth that isn't incredibly fragile. Um, that could potentially have use, but I don't think this is it.
I also do not think that it would be it. At this point, it would be easier to do, would just be to helium cool just lead. Because lead at that temperature will just become a superconductor anyway,
Well, that's true. And
or semiconductor.
one of the claims said that they can get it down to negative 163, I believe. So they had this LK99 working at negative 163. I'm trying to look for it so I can be accurate, but so they also sinter it. So they powder the lead and sinter it to and the second center is 935 degrees Celsius. So that's dangerous in and of itself.
That's pretty damn hot.
Palladium
Palladium hydride
never looks good.
Palladium hydride is the one that came before this, room temperature, but it's fragile as hell.
Well, it's fragile and it's really expensive. Palladium is very, very expensive.
Absolutely.
Very expensive and heavy again. I mean, relatively heavy when we're talking.
Yeah, as long as you can trap a whole bunch of various stuff inside of this crystal lattice, it will be kind of interesting to see what it can do. I personally would try to change out the phosphate in there though, because the PO4 it adds some bulk.
Yeah. Bismuth and so somebody has pyrolytic carbon.
Carbon?
Pyrolytic carbon is what the paper says.
Yeah, that's cheap as hell. It's a dimagnetic.
Yeah.
So it's a magnet.
But yeah, so that was one of the criticisms too. But and I forget who asked. I think Jason asked about the lead, what they could switch it out for, so it wasn't so. It didn't have the challenges of being heavy and dangerous and toxic. And I said, I think that the lead's what provides the structure that this whole thing is built on. So
yeah, and because it's what's that called? Crap. Conductive, highly conductive. We generally would be okay with, using that other than other things.
yeah,
because that's why like lead batteries are a thing.
Right.
Because it's very conductive. I mean, could you try to switch it out for gold? I mean, maybe, but you probably will run into problems.
People who steal batteries. Rise of 2p orbitals occupied by atoms and habitation. Sorry, I'm just trying to read this papers in like chunks.
You're good. I mean, maybe silicon. Maybe you might run into some big problems with that. Tin, maybe. I think you're also going to run into some other kinds of problems with tin, especially the fact that it melts at a really, really, really low temperature.
Well, yeah. And I think from what I was reading that the lead 10 is what gives it its structure. So, is what gives it that pattern that makes it superconductive. So
what? Why?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to read. Use size.
Well, PB10. If you're talking about in the paper, that's just because it's a structure of 10 lead.
Well, I understand atoms, that. I understand that.
I would give it a. I'm trying to think of how that would probably be. That would probably be more of a pyramid shape, and it would be pyramids attached to each other by essentially the tips, like two pyramids stacked.
Okay.
and it would be touching by the tip.
Just the tip.
Just the tips, because then there would be enough area in between for like stuff to travel through it, electrons to move and whatnot. Because if they're too tightly compact, you might start running into possible problems, and it would be super, super, super dense then. Also, probably kind of brittle.
Yeah. Fermi, fully occupied flat band. 2 flat bands arise from 2p orbitals. Flat band structures can be included.
Only 2p orbitals?
That's what it says.
I can see
2p
that.
orbitals of 1/4 occupied oxygen atoms and the hybridization of 3d orbitals of copper with the 2p orbitals from its nearest neighboring lead. We observe 4.
Right. So we're going to be looking at essentially the 4-leaf clover design.
Okay.
Repeated, which then those would stack.
They would stack into the pyramid, or they would stack just as bands?
They would stack to each. So if you imagine it like a 4-leaf clover and then just start stacking 4-leaf clovers on top of each other, that's probably what would happen. Maybe in an alternating kind of form. So like you're looking at like filling the gap in between the leaves with another set of leaves and just kind of continuing that up. So there's not like, so it stacks tighter.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about filling the gap. So you're turning the 4-leaf every, quarter of the time for every level you go up. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense. Yep. Okay.
I didn't know how to describe it, but yeah, no, that's exactly what I was talking about. It might be stacking like that.
Okay.
That would not surprise me.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, so I didn't want to take, I was going to take like 15 minutes on this, and then I got so stuck into it, and then I was like, fuck, I'm going to ask Brian. As I thought I was on the right track, I just wanted to make sure. So, yeah. 1, don't make this, because we got that question a couple times, including in the super chat. Please don't make this at home.
That would be really hot to make it home.
Brian can, but I'm not going to.
I won't. It's not like anything in it is particularly dangerous. Let's just be honest. It's not particularly dangerous, other than the amount of heat you need.
Well, yeah, lead at 1,000 degrees C can get a little touchy.
I wouldn't touch it.
At home, not in a lab.
Controlled lab. I mean, you got vents.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. You said it's not that dangerous. I said, yeah, in a controlled lab, but at home, I wouldn't recommend doing it in your basement. So
no, I wouldn't put it in forge temperatures.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, what about the title of the paper? Semiconductor transport. That's any scientific paper ever. They're just a bunch of nonsense. Well, I mean, they mean something, but it's never like, damn, we found it. It's never anything cool like that. But yeah, no, I don't encourage it. Also, I don't buy it. I don't think this is viable. I think we disagree on impact that it would have if it was viable, but I think we agree on the fact that this is probably not a viable option to replace anything we currently have now. So
I think it's a lot of just smoke and mirrors, kind of like the fusion power bullshit that kind of started coming out recently. Just kind of a lot of smoke and mirrors, and it doesn't actually have what we think it will.
Well, it's funding. It's always funding.
Oh, it's always funding.
Always.
Give me
So-
grant money, please. Kisses,
Right.
kisses to the government.
Oh, look, I'm so close. And I got this much interest from the public. You got to give me money for it.
I'm so close. Just donate a little bit more to my OnlyFans. I mean, my research project.
OnlyFans, you probably get more out of.
True.
But, well, thanks for joining me, buddy. I gotta go hang out with the fam for a minute here before the regular stream. But we will be back in like an hour and a half. Brian will probably be back in 2 hours.
2 hours. Exactly 2 hours. Yeah, because I got to go pick the wife up from work.
Yep. So, always appreciated. And as always, thank you for shit. StreamYard just froze again. There we go. It's back. As always, thank you so much for the outro. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you, all you lovely people. And you're welcome, Xcomer. I spent way too much time on this, but you know I love you, so I'll do it. This came up because he super chatted last night asking me about it on my news stream, and I totally got fucking sidetracked because I haven't listened to anything about it. So that's how this became. So, but have a good night, y'all. We'll see you soon. Take care.